You are very close to losing something real, not because it is weak, but because it is so strong that part of you does not know what to do with it. This person truly loves you, not in the soft, easy, expected way, in a deeper way, in a way that shakes your habits, touches your hidden fears, and begins to change you from the inside out. And that is exactly why part of you wants to run. People often imagine love as something that should feel calm right away, safe right away, clear right away, but real love does not always arrive like that. Sometimes it enters your life like a storm moving through a quiet room. It stirs things, it shifts things. It makes your mind ask questions it never asked before. When someone truly matters, your balance gets disturbed, not because the bond is wrong, but because it is important. That tension you feel is not always a warning. Sometimes it is proof that this connection has reached deeper than surface attraction. Proof that something inside you has been touched. Stay with me, because this matters more than most people realize. The mind begins to study everything. It doubts, it compares, it resists, not because the feeling is fake, but because it carries weight. Real affection reaches places in you that normal attention never reaches. It wakes up memories, fears, needs, and old emotional pain that were sitting quietly in the dark. So when this person gets close, the reaction is rarely simple. It feels intense. It feels messy. It feels like confusion, pressure, maybe even fear. But that does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means something real has finally arrived. That is why true love can feel uncomfortable. It asks you to face the parts of yourself you usually avoid. It shows you how badly you want closeness, while at the same time showing you how hard you fight to protect your freedom. It reveals the distance between your heart and your defenses. Many people feel this inner split and think it means the connection is a mistake. So they pull back, they go quiet. They convince themselves they are being careful, but often they are not protecting themselves from danger. They are stepping away from growth. They are leaving a rare chance behind because the feeling is too strong to explain, and that is the trap. When someone really loves you, their presence does not stay on the surface, it goes deeper. It reaches the hidden rooms of your inner world where old fear and silent longings still live. It touches the places where you fear rejection, fear losing control, fear needing someone too much. But it also touches the part of you that wants to be seen fully, accepted fully, loved without pretending. So now two forces wake up at once. One part of you wants to move closer. Another part wants to escape before the stakes get too high. If you have felt both at the same time, that does not mean you are broken. It means something meaningful is happening. And this is where it gets deeper. The person who pulls these reactions out of you is often not random. They reflect something back to you, your hunger, your wounds, your unfinished emotional story. That is why the connection can feel so big, so difficult, so hard to ignore. It is not just about them, it is about what their love wakes up in you. Strong feelings are often mistaken for chaos or incompatibility, but emotional intensity usually means something important is being activated. The mind does not pour that much energy into something shallow. When a connection stirs excitement, longing, fear, hope and anxiety all at once, it is rarely meaningless. It means your inner world sees this as important, even if your thoughts cannot explain why yet. The intensity feels consuming because it is not only about the present moment, it is tied to older emotional patterns, unmet needs, old stories you learned about love, closeness, safety and loss. All of that rises together. That is why your attention keeps returning to this person. It is not always simple attraction. Sometimes your mind is trying to understand the weight of what has been opened inside you. It pulls you back to them, and at the same time it pulls you deeper into yourself. Do not click away yet, because this part explains so much. Intensity does not always mean a relationship will last forever. It does not automatically mean peace, stability, or long-term fit, but it does mean significance. It means there is emotional material here that deserves to be understood, not just escaped. Many people run from that charge because it feels too big. They want to shut it down, distract themselves, label it as stress, and move on. But when they do that, they also miss the message inside the feeling. Emotional charge is information. It points towards something alive in you, something vulnerable, something still unfinished. True love does not simply tell you who you are. It pressures the shape of who you think you are. It pushes against the identity you built for safety. It asks whether that identity is truly you or only a shield you learned to wear. Maybe you see yourself as guarded, independent, strong, and fine on your own. Then someone enters your life and suddenly you feel your need for warmth, reassurance, tenderness, and emotional closeness. That can feel threatening, not because those needs are wrong, but because they do not fit the image you have worked hard to maintain. Real love creates that kind of pressure. It does not attack your worth. It challenges your rigidity. Over time, people create fixed versions of themselves. These versions are built from old experiences, disappointments, habits, and defenses. They help you feel stable. They help you feel in control. But meaningful love brings movement into what has become too fixed. It invites you to include more of yourself, not less. It asks you to admit that you can be strong and still need someone, careful and still open, certain and still unsure, in control and still deeply affected. That can feel like losing yourself, when really it may be the beginning of becoming more complete. And then another fear appears, the fear of losing this person. But often that fear says more about your inner investment than about the actual state of the connection. Once someone becomes deeply meaningful, the mind starts imagining life without them even while they are still there. It prepares for pain before pain has arrived. It creates scenes of distance, silence, rejection, and separation, not because those things are happening, but because your mind is trying to protect you from shock. The problem is that this defense can distort reality. Small changes in tone, timing, or attention start to feel huge. A delayed reply becomes danger. A quiet mood becomes proof that something is fading. Anxiety begins to speak louder than truth, and the bond feels unstable even when it is still there. This is how fear and attachment begin to feed each other. The more someone matters, the more your mind tries to protect itself from losing them, but the more it tries to protect you, the more sensitive and reactive you become. So the fear itself starts shaping your experience, and many people mistake that fear for proof that the relationship is weak. In reality, the fear often reveals emotional value. It shows that the connection has moved beyond casual interest and entered the deeper system of your inner security. There is another layer here, and most people never see it clearly. In the beginning, you do not meet another person in a fully objective way. You meet them through your own inner world. The mind fills empty spaces with hopes, memories, wounds, needs, and desire. It projects, it imagines, it gives the person meaning far beyond what you can consciously explain. So when someone draws you in strongly, it is not just because of who they are. It is also because of what they start to represent inside you. They may come to symbolize comfort, rescue, approval, healing, safety, or even a doorway to becoming someone new. These meanings are not always chosen on purpose. They rise from deep inside. That is why early attachment can feel bigger than reality. The emotional force is increased by what you are unconsciously placing onto the other person. They become a screen for inner material. They seem brighter, larger, more ideal, or more dangerous than they may actually be. Then reality slowly appears. The real personality of the other person becomes clearer. And this is often when tension begins, not because they changed, but because your projection can no longer remain untouched. That moment can bring disappointment, confusion, or distance. But projection is not always a bad thing. It can actually help you understand yourself. The feelings you place onto another person often reveal what is missing, hungry, or unresolved inside you. So love becomes a mirror. It reflects back the parts of your inner life that have not yet been fully seen. When a meaningful relationship forms, it does more than create closeness. It wakes up emotional material that was buried, ignored, or never fully processed. That is why relationships can feel so exposing. They shine light on the hidden parts of you through ordinary moments with another person. Old conflicts begin to rise. Maybe you want intimacy, but fear dependence. Maybe you want honesty, but hide your deeper feelings. Maybe you crave steady love, but become restless the moment it starts to feel real. These opposites can live quietly inside you for years. But once a relationship gains emotional depth, they stop hiding. They move to the surface. They turn into real-time emotional experience. You feel them in your chest, in your thoughts, in your sudden reactions. Anxiety, irritation, idealizing, pulling away, needing reassurance, going cold. These reactions are not always about the other person alone. Often they are signs that your own inner conflict is being activated. That is why the experience can feel so destabilizing. It destroys the illusion that you are simple, steady, and fully self-controlled. But this is not a failure, it is a chance. Because what becomes visible can finally be understood. What becomes conscious can begin to change. And if you can stay present long enough to watch these patterns instead of obeying them, you may discover that the relationship is not just showing you the other person, it is showing you yourself. Avoidance often gets mistaken for lack of love, but many times it is the opposite. It is not that the feeling is weak, it is that the feeling has become too strong. When a connection starts to matter, vulnerability increases. And once vulnerability increases, risk appears, the risk of being rejected, the risk of being disappointed, the risk of needing someone who might not stay. To protect itself, the mind creates distance. That distance can look like silence, overthinking, emotional withdrawal, sudden doubts, or an obsessive focus on the other person's flaws. On the surface, it seems like disinterest, but underneath, it may be fear. The heart moves forward, and the defense system slams the brakes. This happens especially in people who have known inconsistency, emotional pain, or unstable closeness in the past. The body remembers what the conscious mind tries to forget. So even when the present connection is different, the old emotional memory still reacts. It says, be careful. It says, step back now, before this gets dangerous. And yes, avoidance can bring temporary relief. Pulling away lowers the pressure. It creates space. It helps the system calm down. But it also creates a painful paradox, because the same distance that reduces fear also interrupts the very bond that was bringing meaning, depth, and transformation. So the person feels relief, but also emptiness, safety, but also loss. This is why avoidance is rarely simple rejection. Often it is a struggle with one's own emotional intensity. It is a battle between the need for closeness and the need for protection. And usually, protection wins first. Emotional resistance works in a similar way. When someone starts to matter deeply, they are no longer just outside of you. They begin to live in your thoughts, affect your mood, shape your expectations. That can feel overwhelming. So the mind creates friction, doubt, delay, hesitation, not always because the connection is wrong, but because your system is trying to regain control. This resistance can feel confusing. You feel drawn in, then suddenly pushed back. You miss them, then want distance. You imagine a future, then question everything. But these mixed signals do not always mean the other person is the problem. Often they show that your emotional system is struggling to process closeness. Past pain teaches the mind to connect attachment with danger. So when a new bond begins to resemble old emotional risk, resistance appears. It does not ask whether this person is different. It reacts to the pattern. It reacts to the memory. That is why someone can be kind, steady, and sincere, yet still trigger fear in you. Not because they are unsafe, but because they are close enough to awaken what was never healed. And here is the part most people miss. Resistance often grows in proportion to meaning. The more the bond matters, the stronger the pushback can become. So if you only judge a connection by how easy it feels, you may walk away from the very thing that could help you grow. Stay with this idea. It can change the way you see your own reactions. Growth in relationships is rarely soft. It does not happen only in peace. It happens in confrontation, in the moments when your usual habits fail, in the moments when jealousy, fear, insecurity, or the ache of being deeply seen begin to rise. Real growth asks you not to run from those feelings right away, not to treat them as instant proof that something is wrong, but to observe them, to ask what they are trying to show you. This shift changes everything. When discomfort becomes information instead of a threat, you stop being controlled by it. You begin to understand it, and once you understand it, you gain a little more freedom inside it. That is how emotional depth grows, not by avoiding tension, but by staying present long enough to learn from it. Much of the discomfort people feel in love does not come from the connection itself. It comes from old inner structures being challenged. These structures were built to protect you. They helped you survive confusion, disappointment, neglect, or fear. But what once protected you can later limit you. It can keep you safe from pain, while also keeping you far from intimacy. So when new love arrives, those old systems feel pressure. They do not disappear quietly, they resist. Growth is not a straight path. It comes in waves. You open, then close. You understand something, then fall back into an old reaction. You feel brave one day and overwhelmed the next. That does not mean you are failing. It means the process is real. Every time you choose to stay aware instead of running on autopilot, your capacity increases. What once felt unbearable becomes more manageable. What once felt like chaos begins to make sense. Over time, the emotional world inside you becomes less frightening and more familiar. And through that, the relationship becomes more than an external bond. It becomes a place where your inner life is being shaped in real time. The mind does not become whole alone. It grows through contact, through reflection, through being affected by another person. Meaningful connection wakes up the parts of you that have remained split off from your conscious identity. The hidden tenderness, the disowned anger, the silent need, the ability to trust, the ability to receive. Human beings develop unevenly. Some traits grow strong because they were rewarded. Others stay buried because they felt unsafe, unwanted, or unnecessary. Love shines light on those missing parts. Often the qualities that deeply attract you in another person are qualities waiting to develop in you as well. Often the things that trigger you most strongly point to areas where you are emotionally unfinished. None of this is random. The intensity is pointing somewhere. It is showing where growth is possible, where integration is needed, where your identity may need to expand. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It does not mean becoming calm all the time or never feeling confused again. It means slowly allowing different parts of yourself to exist together without forcing one part to destroy the other. Strength with softness, desire with fear, independence with attachment, logic with feeling. As new emotional experiences enter your life, the boundaries of who you think you are begin to move. That can feel deeply unsettling, but it can also be the beginning of a more honest life. The drive toward wholeness does not usually speak in neat language. It speaks through attraction, conflict, longing, projection, and emotional intensity. It speaks through the people who affect you more than you expected, through the bonds that challenge your patterns, through the moments that shake your certainty. That is why connection is not only about companionship, it is also about development. Another person can become the living context in which your hidden parts finally surface. And when they do, you have a choice to shut the process down or to stay long enough to understand it. This is why letting go too soon can be such a painful mistake. Many people leave when the feelings become too strong, when the uncertainty feels too heavy, when the discomfort starts looking like a warning sign. They assume intensity means instability. They assume confusion means incompatibility. But early in a meaningful connection, your reactions are not always clear evidence. Often they are signs of adjustment. The mind is trying to absorb something new. The heart is trying to trust something deeper. Clarity takes time. Understanding takes time. Emotional truth rarely appears all at once. So if you cut the process short the moment it becomes uncomfortable, you may not be walking away from danger. You may be walking away from the meaning that had not yet fully revealed itself. When people leave too early, they often respond to temporary turbulence as if it were final truth. They act from the first wave of discomfort instead of waiting for deeper clarity. And in doing so, they can lose experiences that would have explained the bond more honestly. They lose the chance to see whether the confusion was only fear, whether the resistance was only defense, whether the emotional storm was the beginning of growth, not the end of love. Real understanding usually comes after the first wave, not during it. It comes after reflection, after time, after staying present long enough for the nervous system to settle and the deeper pattern to show itself. Leaving instantly may feel like self-protection, but it can also strengthen avoidance. The mind learns a simple rule: if it feels intense, escape. If it feels vulnerable, leave. If it matters too much, shut it down before it can hurt you. And the more often this rule is repeated, the harder it becomes to remain present in any deep connection. A cycle begins. Meaningful relationships are abandoned before they have space to mature. Emotional complexity is treated like danger. Growth is postponed again and again. But staying does not mean forcing something unhealthy. It does not mean ignoring real incompatibility, disrespect, or repeated harm. It means allowing enough room for the emotional process to unfold before making a final judgment. It means learning the difference between true warning and inner panic. That difference can save something precious, because sometimes what feels confusing at first becomes clear later. What feels threatening at first becomes safe through understanding. What feels overwhelming at first becomes deeply grounding once the old fear begins to loosen. Give the truth time to emerge. Not every strong feeling should be obeyed immediately. Some feelings need to be witnessed, questioned, and understood before they are trusted. So if you feel like running from someone who truly loves you, pause before you do. Look closely at what is happening inside you. Is the bond actually unstable, or is your fear speaking louder than reality? Is the person unsafe, or are they simply close enough to awaken parts of you that were sleeping? Are you losing yourself, or are you being invited to become more fully yourself than before? These are not small questions. They can change the direction of your life, because real love does not always arrive with instant peace. Sometimes it arrives with pressure, with mirrors, with discomfort, with the breaking open of old emotional walls. It shakes your control. It exposes your defenses. It forces you to see how deeply you want connection and how fiercely you fear it at the same time. And yes, that can feel terrifying, but terror is not always a sign to leave. Sometimes it is a sign that you are standing at the edge of something that could transform you, and if you leave every time transformation begins to hurt, you may keep choosing familiar loneliness over unfamiliar growth. Think about that. Really think about it. Some connections are not meant to flatter the version of you that hides. They are meant to call forward the version of you that is ready to live more openly, feel more honestly, and love with less armor. That does not mean the road will be smooth. It means the road may be worth taking. The inner process will not finish in one day. There will be moments of clarity and moments of doubt, moments when you want to lean in and moments when you want to disappear. But if the connection is genuine, if respect is present, if care is steady, then maybe the answer is not to run at the first sign of emotional fire. Maybe the answer is to stay awake inside it, to listen, to learn, to let the deeper meaning unfold before you decide to let it go.